Hello everyone, and welcome to another Lake Mead and Colorado River Watch update. In this episode for April 2023, we're going to take a look at some river users who are under more water restrictions and others that just had water restrictions lifted, despite both using the same Colorado River water. We'll compare Lake Mead's current water level to last month, and we'll also look at why new studies need to be conducted regarding the effectiveness of the third intake at Lake Mead, which Las Vegas relies on. Throughout the month, the increased precipitation and atmospheric rivers resumed out west as they made their way into the Las Vegas Valley, continuing to bring heavy rains and wind week in, week out. The unusual weather patterns briefly showed signs of breaking, with a few days around the more seasonal temps of 70 degrees, before continuing right back into cool weather. As we head into the lake, we're going to share some of the water conservation measures the Las Vegas Valley is currently under, along with some that were just enacted within the last few months. Some key areas that the restrictions target are golf courses, artificial water features, evaporative cooling, natural grass, and residential pools. First off, many viewers have been interested in knowing whether swimming pools were allowed or being restricted in the desert. And yes, they are allowed here in Las Vegas, but the city finally addressed this with a limit on residential pool size, with new construction pools larger than 600 square feet being prohibited. Commercial pool sizes remain unaffected. Another area of the restrictions involve golf courses, with no new golf course construction being permitted within Las Vegas, and stricter water limits on the numerous existing courses throughout the valley. Natural grass is also banned in new developments, and as we previously covered, so-called non-essential grass was mandated for retroactive removal at the cost of homeowners, businesses, and HOAs. Most recently, a new proposal was enacted this year to further address high-use residential consumers. This excessive use charge targets around the top 10% of residential users, who, according to the Water District, use the same amount of water in 1 month that the average household uses in 1 year. These 10% alone are said to account for around 30% of all residential water use in the valley. And I know you're interested in who some of those users might be, aren't you? Well, much to the dismay of some folks, our local iTeam News published a list given to them by the Water District of the top 100 residential users from 2021. Topping the list was a home belonging to the Prince of Brunei, who apparently doesn't even live at the property most of the time. His upscale Spanish Trail lot used more than 12 million gallons of water in 2020, which is about 100 times more than the average Las Vegas home uses. Others near the top of the list included casino mogul Steve Wynn, singer Celine Dion, magician David Copperfield, and the Greenspun family, owners of local media source the Las Vegas Sun. I'll leave a link to the iTeam report here and in the description below if you want to see the whole list. As we stop at this sign marking the water level back in 2000, this is a good place to pause and take a look at today's water level report. As of April 1st, Lake Mead is showing around 1,046 feet above sea level, and though it's down ever so slightly from last month's report, the level remains nearly the same. No, this isn't an April Fool's joke, but looking at the graph, Lake Mead has actually been holding fairly steady, where in recent years, we'd usually be starting a plunge right now. Instead, we're in this nice holding pattern. Last year by this time, Mead had already lost about 7 feet of elevation. We will see how long this steady trend can last before the heat of summer and downstream use sets in. We'll also take a quick look at Lake Powell upstream to get a better picture of what Lake Mead's supply looks like. The level at Powell is 3,522 feet, rising slightly from last month. All the way upstream from Lake Powell, the Rocky Mountain snowpack is reportedly now around 158% of its seasonal average. And on Powell's graph, you can see it looks like it's already getting some nice spring inflows early. All of this is about as good as we could have hoped for both of these reservoirs. We will now watch in anticipation to see if a real recovery could be in sight, or if we'll continue the trend of the last several years. To put things in perspective, where the sign is back in 2000, the water level that year was hovering around 1,200 feet above sea level. Now let's get back to the new conservation measures. Along with the excessive use charge, The new guidelines also transition residential water billing to a new tier-based system that rewards lower use with lower cost per gallon. Now with the more you use, the more you will pay in each tier. This new system is expected to affect the bill of around half the current residential customers. According to the Las Vegas Valley Water District, these new guidelines have been enacted in response to the mandatory cuts handed down to them by the USBR for the 2023 water year. Now, we previously covered how water waste was already being addressed, with the city creating a water patrol to look out for overwatering, broken or leaking irrigation, or watering on the wrong assigned days. Well, after sharing that story months ago, we finally saw our first water patrol warning flag placed by the new agency. It seemed the process starts with a warning flag like this, and then they return in 2 weeks to see if the problem was addressed. If not fixed, the city will then take further steps to issue a fine. We would be very interested to know if any of our viewers in the surrounding areas of Arizona, California, or Utah are facing any similar restrictions or fines in their own water districts. Let us know in the comments below. As Las Vegans continue to adopt each new water conservation measure, downstream, mandatory water restrictions were just lifted for nearly 7 million people across Southern California. The U.S. Drought Monitor reported that throughout the month of March, these regions you see here in white were taken off drought designation due to all the recent flooding and snowpack. Accordingly, the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California decided to end the emergency conservation mandate for the agencies in Los Angeles, Ventura, and San Bernardino counties that rely on water from the State Water Project, or SWP, covered in last video. So does this mean there will be less reliance on Lake Mead downstream now and a significant increase in its water level? Well, unless some major operating changes occur simultaneously at both the USBR and with California Water Management, that is still highly unlikely in the short term. The reason is that Lake Mead not only needs an increased inflow of heavy snowmelt from upstream, but also a reduced outflow of demand downstream to recover. Looking at our current state of resource management, these two factors are unlikely to occur together anytime in the near future. Compounding the water accounting issues is the USBR's operational neutrality paradigm, in which they seemingly shielded Southern California from any mandatory cuts last year, while users in Arizona, Nevada, and Mexico all underwent mandatory reductions. As we covered in the November update, the USBR withheld water in Lake Powell instead of sending it down to Mead, but accounted for that water as if it were indeed released and contained downstream into Lake Mead. This is important because last year, Lake Mead physically fell below the 1,045-foot level listed for mandatory Tier 2B water cuts that would affect Southern California river users. Instead of these cuts becoming active and all lower basin states sharing in the mandatory reductions, only Tier 2A reductions were shouldered by Arizona, Nevada, and Mexico instead. As to why or how the USBR decided to take this course of action is unclear, but if any of our viewers have more knowledge on the concept of operational neutrality, please sound off in the comments below, as we are all trying to understand this complex situation. Despite all the extreme weather events we have been witnessing throughout the Southwest, it seems water managers in Nevada are hoping for the best but still planning for the worst, as it was recently reported that the Southern Nevada Water District is beginning a new study on the third intake at Lake Mead. The third intake was completed in 2015 and constructed at the bottom of the lake bed with a riser to draw city water for Las Vegas even if Hoover Dam dropped to dead pool and water could no longer flow downstream anymore. The older two intake manifolds were placed at higher elevations in the lake, and due to the low levels at Mead, the first intake is now non-operational and can be seen above water here. We covered this a bit more in our original before and after video from last year if you are interested. Due to the ever-decreasing water level at Mead, the third straw, as we call it, is now in need of a feasibility study due to the changing turbidity and quality of the water entering the intake. The evaluation is projected to cost $1.4 million and take around 8 months to complete. A possible outcome of the evaluation may be the need to lower the intake riser so that it can reliably draw water further below the water line if need be. As we await the coming snowmelt from all the winter storms upstream, we will be keeping an eye on where all this water goes and how it is accounted for. How much snowmelt will make it to Lake Powell and on into Lake Mead? We will watch in anticipation as temperatures begin to rise and the spring season blooms. We'd like to give special recognition to our Super Thanks viewers from last update. They are Jack Person and the Cutaway 05. Your support not only helps us to create more content, but motivates us to do all the legwork involved also. Remember to stay hydrated, stay happy out there, and we'll catch you next update.